Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hideous Diversion, a podcast with yours truly, Mike Hideous, and my co-host, Mr. B. Say hello, Mr. B.
What's up? How you doing, buddy?
Okay, that was fabulous. All right, so here's what's going on tonight, folks. We have a very special show for you tonight. We are going to be doing an interview with a very special friend of mine who I've known for decades. Before we do, I'm going to just tell you how I met him real quick. So back in 1986, I was 21 years old, and I was just at that point in time buying all my Misfit 45s and everything that I wanted to collect. And back then, they were cheap. They were like, the most I ever spent one was $50 for Horror Business, okay? The 45, which is like $5,000 today. So I go to this place in a town, I think it was Prospect Park, New Jersey, at a club called the Rat Trap Cafe. And it was a place where younger kids who were under 21 used to go on Sundays for matinees to see like punk rock bands. So I'm going there because I'm going to buy this record, a Misfits record called Beware. It's a 12-inch United Kingdom pressed record. And our friend was on this record. So the guy we're going to interview tonight. So as I'm walking into the Rat Trap Cafe to buy this record, who do I see? The one and only guitarist for the Misfits at the time. Well, before that time, Mr. Bobby Steele. Mr. Bobby Steele, will you come in to our conversation, please?
Yeah, hi, Mike. How you doing?
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby Steele. How are you, man?
Good.
Good. You look good.
Yep, still hanging in there.
I see. You just put out a new record, right?
Yes.
Act Your Age again. I gotta tell you, I love the cover. I really do.
Thanks.
What made you think of that idea for the cover?
That was actually Diana came up with the idea for that. We'd done a split EP with a band from Uruguay called the Moors, and she really liked the caricatures that the artist made of like us. So she wanted to have him do something for us also, and so she reached out to him and told him like what the idea was, that she wanted to like have like us like fighting like our aging, and that's how it all came out.
I love it. I really do. I think it's a great idea. When I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I really got the whole gist of it. So I thought it was great. And on top of that, I really love the album. I gotta say, I think it's your best album. I really do. Production-wise and sound-wise, it sounds great. It really does. I listened to everything on it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what prompted you to want to do the next record and how we all got into it?
Okay, we had our drummer back in, from about 2016 till about 2020, Joe Stoker, he was the one that came up with the idea. He's like a real die-hard fan. He came around and he says, you're coming up on the 30th anniversary of Act Your Age. Why don't we do something special? So I thought like, well, there's some stuff on that album that I wasn't really happy with the mixes and performances on, that I always wished I had more time to like do over. So why don't we like do a new versions of everything? And then I think it was Diana came up with the whole idea, well, why don't we bring in guests? And she was the one, because I mean, she's got no fear. Okay, so she had no problem going and approaching like a lot of people and saying, like, we're doing this project, would you be interested? And while I'm like, oh, you can't ask them to do that. She would ask them, they would always be like, oh yeah, sure, definitely. So, you know, we wound up getting like a lot of like really, really respectable people on this record.
I noticed. I read the credits. That's great,
Really?
man.
Yeah, you know, I mean, some of them came to our home studio, but a lot of them actually did their tracks remotely and just sent them in, and we just like added them to the multi tracks.
The beauty of technology these days, right?
Oh man, could never have done this in 1989.
Oh my God, no! I say the same thing all the time. I'm like, well, you know, when we were kids and we used to record punk rock albums, we had
On
to go
four
to the
tracks.
four track. We had to go to the studio uphill both ways in the snow,
Barefoot.
barefoot, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot has changed, man. I mean, all right. So I want you all to hear another story about Bobby. When I had first started my band Empire Hideous, it was Mr. Bobby Steele, whom I had contacted on, you know, where do I get my record press? You know, it was the first time I had ever. Now, mind you, I had no musical background whatsoever, and if I remember correctly, it was that day when I went and I got that Misfits Beware album at the Rat Trap Cafe when Bobby was there. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, we had exchanged phone numbers. And somehow or another, Bobby and I kept in touch for all that time. Because I didn't put my first album out until I was about, I don't know, 24 maybe? I don't know, 24. And so I called Bobby up. I'm like, what do I do? Where do I go? And he's like, all right, well, you got to go to this place up in Messina, New York. Was it New York State or Canada? No, it was New York State, Messina, New York. And that's where I believe you had the first Undead album pressed, if I remember correctly.
The first 45 that we did ourselves was done out in Long Island, but that place got shut down for bootlegging. Act Your Age was pressed in Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, there was a place down in Georgia too. I don't remember what it was called, but you were the one who definitely told me to go to the place in New York State up in Messina, so that's why I brought it up.
I don't remember that place.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I will tell you that years later, when I did one of my records, I actually drove all the way up there in one day, drove up and back, a 14-hour drive.
Oh,
just to save money on shipping. I think I probably spent as much money in gas going up and getting back. Here's the funny thing about it. I went up there with my guitar player, and we were going to get like 1,000 CDs that they pressed for us. And at the time, I had this pickup truck. I kid you not, we are not 5 minutes away from the location, and we get pulled over. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So the cop pulls us over, and he's looking at my registration, which is outdated. He's looking at the inspection sticker, which is outdated. And he's looking at the registration. He says, your car's supposed to be tan. It's black. Because like 2 months earlier, I had hand painted it with a brush black.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, officer, yeah, I got a perfectly good explanation. We're in a band. We're going to get my CDs right now. So yeah, that was the fun story about getting our CDs. Yeah,
wow.
I got pulled over. Yeah. Anyway. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the album? Tell me your good points about it. What do you what do you like about it? What don't you like about it, if anything at all? Let's talk about the album.
No, I can't say there's anything that I don't like about it, because I spent so much time working on it, and like anytime there was something I didn't like, I did it over. I mean, I probably spent a year just mixing and remixing, listening to it in the car, listening to it on headphones, finding things I didn't like, and like going back and like tweaking the kick drum or the snare, the reverbs, things like that, until it was really like what I liked.
Did you do most of it in home at the studio?
In home. Yeah, we did all of our tracks we did here. And then Des Cadena came here and did his tracks. Goolsby did his tracks here. Um, um, Tim Capello came down here and did his tracks. Trying to think who else. Oh, Andreas Holma from Hypocrisy out of Sweden. He happened to be visiting some friends in New York that came to visit us, so he did his tracks right here. I'm just Rick Rivets did his stuff here.
Who's Rick Rivets?
He was the original lead guitarist for the New York Dolls.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, wow, that's awesome. I didn't even realize who that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also had the Corpse Grinders.
Wow.
Let's see, who was anybody else that
Yeah, you
here?
got a guy from Black Flag on the album.
Yeah.
Yep,
Buzzcocks.
Blitz Kid.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it's pretty exciting.
It's like an all-star review, right?
Man,
It really is. I mean, I'm like so like blown away that like we got so many great people on here. It's like
Here's something you might find interesting. If I remember correctly, I was at Chiller Theater the day you met Diana. Am I on the right track there?
might be.
Because that's where you met her, right?
No. Actually, no. We met at church.
Oh, okay.
At a Bible study. That's where we met, and then like the first Chiller after we had met, she was there also, and so like we spent like most of the day hanging out together, and I actually proposed to her like right after that.
See, I remember seeing you at the Chiller Theater convention, and the reason I bring this up is because you and Diana kind of acted as, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing things or was seeing things, but you guys kind of acted like you were relatively new at knowing each other. I don't think you were a pair at that point, but you were hanging out.
Yeah, we've been hanging out together for close to a year, and doing a little bit of music together, and then after that Chiller, I proposed to her, and we got married like within a month.
Wow!
And then
nice.
And then I roped her into the band.
There you go. And now, did she play an instrument before?
Oh yeah, she played keyboards and a little bit of guitar, but like on keyboards she's like a virtuoso. Like, she's like amazing. Like that's one of the things that blew me away with her was like, she has a pet sitting business, and we were at like one of her clients' homes, and they had a grand piano in the living room, and she just went over to the piano and she opened up the bench and she took out Chopin, like all 30-second notes.
Oh,
and
wow.
She just like put it up on top of the piano and just like went to town on it. It was like amazing. I was just like, I never knew anybody that could read music like that.
Yeah, and you know what they say, if you can play piano, you can play anything.
That's one of the elements I like about your guys' music, the Undead, is you will mix in keyboards. You bring in different, like, what's the song? Put Your Clothes Back On. I love how that song is mixed, and it's got an upbeat tone, but it's light. I like it.
Yeah.
I like how it comes out, and I love it when bands experiment like that.
Yeah, that's our pop song.
Yeah.
Bobby, do you think that, this is just a hypothetical question, do you think that if you had been doing this album 25, 30 years ago, do you think you would have been adding in some of the instruments that you're using now? Because let's face it, the Undead was a punk rock band. And that's why I asked you, like, would you normally, because I know on the first album, what the hell, 1984, I think it was, we have the saxophone, or and that blew me away. I was like, wait a minute, there's a saxophone in a punk rock band. What's going on here? But I love the song. That's my favorite song on that album.
Thanks. Saxophone is a rock and roll instrument, so
absolutely.
We were recording at Bob Leca's studio, and Bob plays sax, so I just said, why don't you throw in a sax solo on it? And he just like did it in like 2 takes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who remind me, Bob Leca, what studio was that?
Real Platinum.
Real Platinum on Route 17.
I think it might have moved there, but when we recorded, it was like in his like basement.
Oh, okay. Wasn't that the same place where like some of the Misfit albums were recorded?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Do you have any? And we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but do you have any animosity with any of those guys from the past? Does that any of that still bother you from them like in the past?
No, I mean I don't hold anything against them. You know, I don't know if you know, me and Doyle are like best buddies.
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
well.
We get along great. You know, when we see each other, we talk. We're very friendly. We did a gig with him a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And he's always been just when I like realized like how supportive he was towards me. You know, Kenny had told me that Doyle is like a fan. He's like, he had the original Actor Rage. So it just kind of like when we got to like talking, when the whole lawsuit was settled and it was time to like divvy up the proceeds. There was like that whole crossover, the Master Sound sessions, the 12 Heads from Hell sessions. Okay. Jerry said, "Well, you guys are gonna have to figure out who's on what." So, I don't know if he was kind of like figuring we could never come to an agreement or not. But I sat down with Doyle on the phone. I said, "Look, this is what we do. You make a list of what you think you're on. I'll make a list of what I think I'm on. Anything that we both pick, we split it." And he was like, "Perfect." And we did it. And the next day, we like handed it over to Jerry.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't want to dive too much into your past with them. I just wanted to ask you if anything is settled, for the lack of a better term.
Not 100%, but I mean, like, it's good. And like right now, I have a lawyer who's reaching out to their lawyers to try to just completely bury the hatchet on everything and to just like try to like be friends.
Good for you, man. I'm happy. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'd like to see 12 Hits from Hell release, but it's like, I told him, I don't want to do anything adversarial, but if we can propose it to them, like, look, it's being massively bootlegged, we'd all be making some good money if it came out legitimately. The ball's in your court, of course. So like, what do you think? So we'll see how it goes.
Good, man. Well, I wish you all the luck. I hope everything works out.
You never know.
Yeah, right. So tell me, are you touring? Are you doing gigs? Tell me what's going on.
We're getting ready to go back out in August. We're gonna be doing London and the Rebellion Festival. We're doing 3 shows in London. We're gonna do it like the 8th of August, then the 9th we're gonna be doing Rebellion, and then the 10th and 11th we're back in London. And then we fly back home, and about a week and a half later we fly out to the West Coast for a tour.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
So we're starting to get busy, and the great thing is that like we have a booking agent who's able to get us like the right kind of money for these shows, so that we're not like taking a financial bath going out there, but we're actually might wind up ahead.
Where are you coming out? Where are you going to be in California?
We're going to be at San Francisco Knockout on the 23rd.
That's not too far from me.
We're going to be the 24th at the Whiskey.
Okay.
That's in LA, right?
Yeah. The 25th is still up in the air. The 26th we're going to be in Seattle at El Corazon. And we might have one more show like outside of San Francisco on the 27th, but also on the 22nd we just got booked at the Dive Bar in Las Vegas.
Oh wow,
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, Mr. B is down more southern part of California.
Oh, where are you?
No, well, I'm about 3 hours from San Francisco, so that's probably the closest show that I could catch when you're on the
Okay.
West Coast. Yeah. Exciting. That's great.
Yeah, we're excited because it's been like a long time since we were able to tour. COVID just shut it down.
Oh my God, yeah, don't even get me started with that whole thing. Ever since that devastation in our country, I mean, everything has just been so, not everything, but a good portion of things, if you will, have just been screwed up. I can't even get a decent pair of socks.
Yeah,
But anyway.
COVID changed everything, man.
It did. Mr. B and I talk about this all the time. COVID really screwed everything up. In any event, so when, like, now you mentioned it's been a while since you toured. When was the last time you had done a tour?
Probably 2019.
So like right before it, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a West Coast tour.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
All right, shut the heck up.
You missed it.
Sorry.
No, not at all. What the hell was I going to say? Damn it! It threw me all off. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of your songs on here? I think my favorite track. Where is it? Eve of Destruction. I really liked. And what was it? Evening of Desire. That one, I liked that one too. As I had told you in a text message or email, whatever it was, I sincerely believe, and I think it's based on what you told me, the production is different, probably because you had the opportunity to work on it and, get that mix just right, the way you wanted it, which to me makes it sound, in my opinion, different than any other Undead record I've heard in the past. Now, I know when we had conversed on that comment that I just made, you were like, well, what's different about it? I was like, oh, he's putting you on the spot. I'm like, well, I just think that the production value is different, probably in a more professional, don't take offense to this, but a non-punk rock way. It just sounds better, in my opinion.
I'd always try to do it, better than your average punk rock record. I grew up listening to the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Phil Spector's recordings. So I always was really into sounds. So when I got to work, even on the original version, I wanted it to sound better than your average punk record. I mean, Never Mind the Bollocks is like a classic.
Absolutely.
And that was also like a massive production because that was done at EMI Studios. It was produced by the guy that engineered the last couple of Beatles records.
Oh wow.
So I want him
Poor
to
guy. Poor guy. He had to go from the Beatles to the Sex Pistols.
But Paul McCartney was interested in producing them at one point.
Get out. No, I did not know that. No way.
Yeah, I read an interview with him in Rolling Stone magazine back then. And while they were interviewing him, his daughter was in the next room and she was listening to The Damned. And they brought that up and he goes, oh yeah, I really like the Sex Pistols and I've actually thought about, producing them. So, Paul McCartney's always been very open to new stuff and to revolutionary stuff. So it shouldn't be any kind of a real surprise to know that he took interest in the Sex Pistols.
I never knew that. That is really shocking. And didn't you know John Lennon?
No.
Who was it that? All right, so I know you knew Frank Zappa.
Well, I met him. I didn't.
Yeah.
I can't say I knew him, but he knew of me, and he came to see the Misfits because I was in the band, and found out that I got booted out shortly before the gig.
Yeah, I remember that story. I remember distinctly.
Kenny tells it well. Yeah.
Yeah, but you tell it more well because I remember you telling it and how crazy that was. That blows me away.
Well, no, Kenny tells it well because I was never in the dressing room.
Oh, okay.
I saw Frank Zappa walk into the dressing room. I was on the balcony. I saw Frank Zappa walk into the dressing room, and then couple of minutes later, just came like walking back out and like left.
Oh wow.
Only because you weren't there?
Because I wasn't there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. V, Bobby has known a lot of people in his time. He goes way back into the 70s when punk rock was just getting started.
That's right.
And I mean, Bobby had a rapport, if I'm saying it right, with a lot of the New York underground scene as well as the above ground scene. You know. But yeah, he knew quite a lot of people. Bobby, you wanna elaborate on any of these great people that you've known in the past?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I was, you know, friends with, you know, all the Ramones. You know, always, you know, ran into them on the street, and you know, they'd always be cordial. We'd talk, you know. Me and Joey would like kind of like clown around a bit with each other. You know, I played pinball with him at CBGB's a couple of times. You know, so like, you know, I think that was probably the biggest band that I liked friends with. Then there were the Cramps.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I started going to see them at CBGB's, and somehow I just connected with them, and they started inviting me to shows. And then, like, after the shows, they would like invite me out to dinner, and so we became good friends, you know. And like then you know, I lost touch with them as they got bigger, and then like, because we're talking like 1977, 78. And then, like, around, like, 1982, I think they came back to CBGB's. And I walked into the dressing room, and I was shocked that they remembered me. You know?
Wow.
So that was impressive. And to see, like, the success that they've had because of Wednesday is, like, really great, you know? It's just too bad Lux wasn't there to, like, enjoy that success.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I got an opportunity. I had a very golden opportunity to interview both Lux and Poison Ivy from the Cramps. Oh my goodness! When I worked at the Aquarian Weekly, and yeah, what a pair! It's so sad that that Lux died. I mean, he was a character, man. He was definitely a character, and the music that they produced was groundbreaking for that style of music. But yeah, and the Ramones too. Did you know Arturo Vega? With the Ramones. Okay, Arturo. You know Arturo's gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad. I ended up meeting him when I did vocals for the Jerry Only band, and I got to meet him, Arturo that is, on tour, and he was just the nicest guy to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also knew Michael Alago. Do you know Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, so one day I'm online and I'm conversing with Michael Alago. I think it was through MySpace or whatever. And I asked him, I was like, hey, how's Arturo doing? And he's like, he's gone, he died. And I'll tell you, it really just put an arrow right through my heart. I really loved that guy. He was such a great person to me. So when I found out about his death, I was really shocked. Great guy, and the things that he did for the Ramones were, you know, all the artwork and the lighting that he did for the concerts. Great guy. It's too bad he was taken much too young.
Oh yeah.
So on this tour, do you have any bands that you're going to be touring with, or is it just going to be the Undead and whoever you guys hook up with at a local club?
It's just going to be us and whatever is at the club, yeah.
And when does this all go down? When does this start? You said you're going to do London or England, I should say, first, right?
Yeah, we fly out of here on August 7th. The first gig in London is August 8th. Then on the 9th, we're going to be in Blackpool for the Rebellion Festival. And then straight back to London the 10th with it. And then again London on the 11th. Actually, the London shows, the August 8th show, we're going to be playing with Sloppy Seconds. And then the August 10th show is AOD.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
AOD from New Jersey, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't seen those guys in decades.
Me neither. I think about 30, 35 years ago was the last time I saw them.
Yeah.
Not on. Wow.
And then the 11th, we're going to be playing with TSOL and DI.
Oh my God. It's another favorite band of mine from when I was like 21 years old. Oh, goodness.
Man, I'll tell you, we're like really, psyched that we actually got on, build with such good bands.
That's great. If you had to give advice to a younger band or musician that's in an alternative, band, like, and when I say alternative, I'm talking like, the new punk rock of today, what would you have to say to them? Because obviously things are so much different now. And let me be specific. So if you're in what they would consider to be a punk rock band today, it's obviously not what it was in the 70s and the 80s. So what would you say to somebody who's starting a punk band today? What kind of advice would you give them? What would you say?
Well, to sum it up in one word, learn. Okay? Learn about copyright law. Learn about, read about, other bands and how they got screwed around. And learn how to, avoid those kind of things. Don't just jump at any promise, okay? Because record companies will make you a ton of promises and then give you a standard contract that doesn't cover any of those promises and might actually even have a little thing stuck in there where they own you and they own your songs and they own your copyrights. So it's really important for bands, especially now, to really learn how to protect themselves. There's a lot of predators out there.
Yeah. Do you still think that record companies in this day and age with the computer and the internet, you still think that record companies are a valid piece of, how would I put this? A valid stepping stone for success with a band?
No. It's never done me much good.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
That's why I say just learn as much as you can. Learn how to produce your own recordings. Be very critical of yourself. Okay, be your own worst critic. And just learn all the ins and outs of pressing, digital distribution. We do all our distribution digitally through DistroKid. So far, I've seen them as being the most reliable, competent thing. I know a lot of people will slag Spotify because you only get 0.0003 cents per play. But that's one person listening to it, okay? If you get played on the radio and you get paid $3 for that one play on the radio, it's because it's going out to a couple of 100,000 listeners. So when you figure it all out, it comes out the same.
Yeah. And Spotify is huge. Spotify is huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
So
I've heard stories.
It's a worldwide base too, so it's not just just in LA, one radio station. It's the world. So that's one way to look at it.
And it's also also very easy to create Spotify for Artists site, so you can actually look at the statistics and see where you're most popular, which you couldn't do when you were just on the radio.
Could you imagine if we had this sort of technology 30 years ago? If we did, what do you think would have been different about the Undead and Bobby Steele?
I don't know, because I'm just learning all this stuff now and trying to figure it all out. Because when Act Your Age came out, okay, I did it all myself. But it was I was dealing directly with record stores nationwide. Okay, I was calling college radio stations nationwide. Okay, and the college radio stations were much more receptive to answering the phone and talking to you back then. Okay, so there was a lot of things that in a lot of ways were better, because now you try to get a hold of college DJs, they don't want to answer the phone.
How times have changed, huh?
Yeah, it's like there's they're there's either an ego thing or just a lazy thing that they just don't want to really be bothered. I've gotten like several radio stations that are really cool, that are really, WZRD in Chicago is one of them, where I reach out to them and they're like right back to me and they're like, we're fans and let's work together. There was another station down in Austin, Texas that's been like very supportive. But for the most part, a lot of the college stations are just like not like they used to be. Not as excited about like meeting the bands and talking to you on the phone and playing what's not hip everywhere else.
And why do you think that is? Because I have my own theory on that, but why do you think that is?
I think part of it is just because the internet has like blinded people at the same time as it is, just as much as you get like a lot of exposure, it's also blinding you to like come up with your own ideas and to think for yourself on it.
Yeah, my theory is that I think, in my humble opinion, I just think that times have changed. Whereas back in the day when I was young, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, you could turn on a radio station like in New Jersey. You could listen to like what the hell was it? The Montclair radio station. I can't remember what it was called, but Montclair University had its own radio station. William Patterson had its own radio station. Seton Hall, and they all had nights when they would play strictly punk rock bands. And when I say punk rock, I mean punk rock from the 70s and 80s. It's not like that anymore. Yeah. Nowadays, punk rock is Blink-182, bands like, exactly. And other things that I consider more like an emo punk, if that even exists. But I don't think it's the same anymore. I don't think the kids realize what it was like 30 years ago when you had to do everything DIY. You just sat there and told me how you called radio stations and you called colleges and you called this, that, and the other, and you were dealing with records. You had to do, and when you made those calls, you were paying on the phone. I'm sure your phone bill was like $600 a month, I mean, it was such a different time. Everything was DIY. Now it's click, click, click.
Yeah, I spent on average $350 a month on phone calls. I was like literally like any profit that was coming in on the record sales was going right out to pay the phone bill. But my thing wasn't about like. My thing wasn't about making money. My thing at that point was to get the name out, get the band out, get the music out, because then that would like open up better gigs, and then it would kind of like snowball to the next album, also like getting that play, and over time, I mean, we actually like the thing that blew my mind the most back with Act Your Rage was when I found out that Put Your Clothes Back On was number 3 at a commercial radio station in Iowa.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it was like a 100,000 watt commercial radio station. It was like number 3 for several weeks.
What a great feeling that must have been, right?
That was a rush.
Yeah.
Then I found out that I forgot to register the songs with BMI, so I never got any of the royalties.
Oh man.
Nice going. No, I think that's great. And by the way, that is also another great song on the album, Put Your Clothes Back On. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
But at least you can look back at it and you're laughing, so live and learn, right? I suppose.
I might have like missed out on like $100,
What made you want to be a punk rocker? Was it just the time and it was new, or what made you want to just play punk, man?
I just like started getting into punk music, I heard the Ramones, probably the first thing I heard was I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. And, as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is like the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's just, great poppy song, you know, and like that whole whoa, whoa, whoa and everything. It was just like, to me, that they just sounded like a new version of the Beatles, you know. So that, you know, that's what really started to bring me in. And then like the whole goal was to try to like find as many like, you know, different funk records and check them out. And you know, I think that, you know, some of the other early stuff was the Jam, In the City, you know, Patti Smith, of course, the Damned, you know, the early Damned 45s, you know, the Dead Boys, you know. So it was a lot of that like 60s rock and roll influenced punk rock. So, you know, it really, you know, I was like, you know, look, this is the kind of music I've always liked.
I never thought about it that way, man. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. You're right, because the Ramones, they, some of the songs, when I first heard them, I was like, who are these goofy guys, right? Why are they
Yeah.
why are they doing these lyrics this way, and why is this music this way? And then I kind of put it all together, and you're right, and you really educated me there. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's interesting that you mentioned like what you're like when you see a band like the Ramones, you're like, oh, what are these guys doing? I had the same experience. It was 1977, and I'm watching television when it was free back then. And how old was I? 77. I was 11 years old, and I can't remember exactly what I was watching, but some sort of a news program or like a 60 Minutes kind of thing. And this visual of the Sex Pistols came up, and there was a girl. She had like a safety pin going through her cheek.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is this? I'd never seen anything like that before. So that was my first visual experience to a band in the so-called punk rock scene, being the Sex Pistols. Now, mind you, I didn't understand punk rock for another 4 or 5 years after that. I was still young. I was still learning. You know, I was still into Kiss back then, you know. And I didn't get out of that phase until I was about 13, 14 years old. And I started listening to like new wave and all that jazz. So, yeah, it's interesting how you mentioned what brings you or exposes you to that type of music. What I did want to ask you was, are you listening to any new bands today? And if so, what would those bands be?
Not too much, really. I don't have time, you know. But there was one band that we kind of stumbled across out of England called Sharp Class.
Okay.
And they sound like the Jam. They're like amazing, like really, really good, catchy songs and a lot of high energy. But aside from that, really, I don't get to like check out too many new bands. There's a band from Louisville called Plague 9. They have some like really good stuff, and you know their videos are like very intense. Trying to think who else. I'm always so bad with this 'cause I don't get to like check out too much stuff these days. But we'll leave it at that, I guess.
Okay. Hey, speaking of the past, you remember Iggy from Two Tone?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, he passed away not too long ago. I believe they're having some sort of a what would you call it? I'm going blank here. They're doing a show for him, and I can't remember. I want to say it's at Dingbats in Clifton. Yeah. So, Mr. B, you don't know who Iggy is.
No.
But years ago, in 1991, I believe it was, I used to work for this punk rock boutique in, at the time I worked in Montclair, but there were two stores, one in Passaic, New Jersey, and one in Montclair. And it was Two Tone, this punk rock boutique that came around back in the 70s and had a store right next to the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, a famous theater that so many great bands played and went through. and they used to be right there, and that was another influence for me, that I used to go there and like saw all these punk rock bands and T-shirts and clothing, and that really got me into the scene as well. Anyway, what I'm leading to is that the guy, one of the owners, the guy named Iggy, he was the owner. He recently died, so they're a tribute. That's what I was looking. The word I was looking for, tribute. They're doing a tribute show for Iggy now that he is no longer with us. So I wanted to bring that up to you, Bob, because I didn't know if you, what your relationship was with Two Tone.
We were friends. You know, I remember the first time going into their store in Passaic, and I dealt with them regularly, especially like when they had the Montclair store. I remember going there, you know, fairly often. You know, when I don't know if you remember when Roma had that really bad car accident.
Yes, in fact, yeah. If I may interrupt you for a moment, I was working for her when she came back after the crash. I was working at Two Tone for about, I think it was like 2 or 3 years. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we played one of the benefit shows for that. You know.
Yes, as a matter of fact, if I may interrupt you again, the third show I ever played was with you, the Undead. Or was it the second? It might have been the second. I think it was the second. Yeah, we played the Undead.
Pipeline?
No, yeah, at the Pipeline. It was the Undead, Positive Alternative, the Fiends, and the Empire Hideous that opened up. It was my second gig. So my second gig was with you. And the third gig we played was the benefit for Roma after she had the accident. Again, at the Pipeline. And again, Empire Hideous was the opening band, and you guys played. As a matter of fact, when the Undead played, I had previously had my own issues with my own, health, and I had surgery on my back, on my spinal cord, and my spinal column, of all things. And when the Undead came on, there I was jumping off the stage, having a good time, not even thinking about, if I go a crook away, I could crack my back and be paralyzed from the neck down. But
oh yeah,
there we are.
Wow.
So yeah, good times, right?
Oh yeah, I'm glad it all went well for you, man.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've had. I mean, I'm not going to get into it now, but I've had cancer a number of times since then. That was only the second time I had it back then. But I was young and vibrant and invincible. And when you guys were playing, I remember everybody was stage diving, and then of course Mike gets up there and he's like, "Hey, look at me!" and jumps out into the crowd.
Yeah, Diana's been through cancer a couple of times herself. In fact, last time she had liver cancer.
Oh, for crying out loud!
Yeah, and she was able to beat it. She didn't.
Holy crap!
Amen, bro.
She didn't qualify
Amen.
for a transplant, and she came across a doctor that says, "Well, look, we're doing a new study. This treatment has worked really well on lung cancer, and we're looking for candidates with liver cancer to see if it'll work." And it was it wasn't chemo, it was immunotherapy. And the first time that she got it, it knocked it out by 90%. And like, I think it was in about a year, it was like undetectable. And they finally says, "Look, we usually don't say this, but this isn't remission. You're cured."
Wow.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
I mean, I have heard that liver cancer is not, like a very bad sentence.
Yeah. I mean, we lost Joey Image.
That's right. God damn.
If it just been a few months, if he'd just been able to last a few more months, we might have been able to get him on this program, and he might have survived.
Oh well, that's terrible. But I want you to tell Diane I'm happy that she's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Not as happy as I am.
I'll bet. You said when you were leading into that story, it just kind of reminded me, because you said Diana almost died of cancer, and that immediately made me think of 45 Grave Diana Cancer.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to have a rude joke about that, but it did remind me of her. Nevertheless, so why don't you let us know where people can get in touch with you if you'd like? Check out a website or online social media. You wanna do that?
Oh well, we got the website, theundead.com. Okay. There's also our email at theundead.com. Also, you can always, Diana handles like social media, so like you can always go on Facebook and connect with Diana there.
Okay.
You know, she passes messages along to me sometimes also. So I try to stay off of that because I just have so much other stuff to work on it. Like that can become like a major distraction.
Oh, totally. That's why I don't like going online. But all right, so people can find out your tour dates and everything through the website, and how can they get your new CD?
Again, go to theundead.com and just click on our store.
Gotcha. All right, sounds great. And everything else okay? You want to talk about anything else before we let you go?
I don't think so. I think that's.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think we covered enough. I don't want to bore him.
No, you're not a bore, Bobby. You're welcome anytime. I know that what your situation is, so I don't want to keep you too long because of what we talked about prior to the show. I didn't want to bring it up, of course, unless you want to bring it up.
No, let's keep it.
No,
Gotcha.
but hey,
right.
Bobby, pleasure meeting you, man. And when you guys come out to San Francisco, I'm going to do everything I can to be at that show.
Okay, you hit me up with an email, remind me, and I'll put you on the guest list.
Okay, awesome, man.
How great is that, Mr. B?
That's freaking epic.
Freaking epic. All right, Mr. Bobby Steele, everyone. Yeah, golf clap. All right.
Sorry.
All right, so Mr. Steele, I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on to our humble little podcast. Very grateful, and I'm so glad to see you after all this time and get a chance to really talk to you. I haven't talked to you in probably a decade or more. So yeah, it's very nice to see you, my friend, and you are welcome on our show anytime.
All right,
buddy? All right, my friend, we're going to let you go. Why don't you say goodbye to everybody, and you can just click yourself out and hit the leave button on the right side.
Oh, I see it. Okay, hey, just want to thank everybody, for supporting the band, and just like we discussed, if you're interested in anything, just go to theundead.com. We have everything for sale on there. You can always contact me through the website, and we just appreciate our fans.
Well said. All right, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Steele. Have a good day.
We have you on Grid 5. Notify ground.
Do you want signs and stickers that will melt your fucking face? Do you want t-shirts and apparel that make the panties drop? Then you need to contact Lux Tees Custom Apparel and Signs. They make cutting-edge t-shirts, apparel, signs, stickers that kick ass. They are hideous, diversion approved, and they are an official sponsor. Contact Tyler at luxartistmerch@gmail.com, bitches, because your merch should be legendary.
And there he goes, folks. All right, what'd you think of that, Mr. B?
That was awesome. That was awesome.
A punk rock legend
Yes.
right there. Guy's been around longer than guitars.
Really?
He is something else, isn't he? I mean, man, every time I've talked to him, like he tells me on a personal level, we'll always talk about things that happened in the past. And that's why I wanted him to talk about the people he knew and everything, because he's been down that road in New York City, because he saw it all. He saw it all.
You
Now, I
lived
think
through like all the stuff we talked about in our prior
all the great
episodes.
stuff.
He was
Exactly.
there doing it. That's
Exactly.
fucking rad, man. You know?
And the stories he tells me or has told me in the past are just phenomenal. Now, folks, we would have talked with Bobby a little longer, but Bobby's dealing with something right now that I'm not going to get into his personal life, but he was only able to do just about an hour's worth of an interview. So, I just want to make a couple things mentionable right now. The album that, all right, so I don't think everybody saw the album cover, but this is the album cover. It's called Act Your Rage.
Cool cover, man. I mean,
yeah, right. It's called Act Your Rage Again. It's just a really good album. Yeah, right in here it says, in memory of Dave Street, John Michaels, Joey Image, and Patrick Blanc. Now, Joey Image, if anybody is interested, Joey Image was the drummer for the Misfits at one point in the very early stages. And we lost him not too long ago, as he said, to liver cancer. I met Joey on two separate occasions. One time when I was in California, in Hollywood, like 2 days before a gig. that we were going to play out there, and I walk into this store on Sunset Boulevard or Hollywood Boulevard, one or the other, and this guy walks up to me because I'm just looking around, and this guy walks up to me. He's like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "No, I'm just looking." And we start talking. I was, where you? He's like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "New Jersey. I'm out here doing a gig." He's like, "Oh, I'm from Jersey." I'm like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Joey Emmett." I'm like, "Holy shit!" And we hit it up, and then after that, years later, I saw him in New Jersey when he was doing something with I believe my old guitar player Jason Trioxin. In any event, I wanted to tell you a little something. He mentioned how Bobby mentioned how he knew Joey Ramone and the Ramones. I
Yeah.
have a little story about Joey Ramone.
Dude, I love their music. I don't know anything about those guys, so educate me.
Well, neither do I.
Oh, really?
Here's my story. And I'm not going to go into the details, but maybe I should. I don't know. All right, I will. This is a great story. I hate to tell you.
All right.
So I'm in New York City on Avenue A. I'm at a club called Brownies, very small club. And I'm there at the bar with Peter Steele of Typo Negative. And we're drinking. We're drinking like he's buying me glasses of wine, and I'm getting fucked up. All right. And at the time, I had the band van, and it was literally parked right in front of the club. I got parked right on Avenue A. I got lucky. And I'm hanging out with Peter, and we're drinking. And at the end of the night, it comes time for me to leave, and I'm just too drunk. I can't drive. There's just no way. So there was a girl there at the bar that I had been talking to all night. Not quite, but I know I get what you're going at. No, it wasn't that bad.
Oh, good.
But yeah, my speech wasn't slurred, my vision was. So this girl, I said to the girl, I'm like, "Listen, I'll gladly give you a ride home, but I can't. I'm too drunk." I said, "I need some time to like clear my head. So I'm gonna go in the van and I'm gonna lay down. You're welcome to come in and hang out with me." So she comes in the van with me, and I lay down in the back, and she lays down with me. And without going into details, her and I hook up in my van on Avenue A at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So here's the beauty of the story. Are you ready? All right.
Yep.
So
Did you have candy in the van too? I'm just curious. No.
No,
Go ahead.
no.
Go ahead.
no candy. She was of age. Don't worry. So we're going at it in the back of the van. Okay. And as we're going at it, I happen to look up out of the window of the van, and who walks by? Joey Ramone. Probably one of the greatest encounters I ever had while going at it in a van on the road in New York City on Avenue A. And Joey Ramone walks by my window. I'm like, "Hey, Joey."
Oh, dude.
It couldn't have been more classic,
And
honestly.
did you like climb up there and roll down the window? Joey! You got like no clothes on. Hey, man!
I didn't have enough time.
Hold on a minute, baby.
You would appreciate that story.
Very good. Very good story,
Thank
Mike.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I never spoke to that girl. Oh, I got tears in my eyes just talking about that story. Oh my God.
The life of a rock star.
Oh my goodness gracious me. Wow. Good times, man. Good times. That was 1997, maybe 96. I can't remember exactly, but man, I'll tell you, there's no doubt about it. Times change. There's no doubt about it. And as being the person who I am and the things that I've lived through throughout the 80s and even the 90s and even, parts of the early parts of 2000, I can honestly say that things have changed in such a manner. That's why when I was speaking to Bobby, I was asking him about the way things are compared to the way things were. When you recorded an album back then, you didn't do it at home on a computer.
Yeah.
You rented time at a professional recording studio. And by a professional recording studio, I mean somebody that had at least a 16 track mixing board or more.
Not
And
just a 4-track out in the garage, man.
no, no, and believe me, I still own my four track Tascam portable studio.
Oh wow.
And
Cool.
hey, here's the cat's tail. Um, I still own it, but yeah, if you wanted a professional recording, professional sounding recording, you went to a professional studio. And back then, like the first time I ever went to a studio, I paid $25 an hour. That was in the 80s.
Yeah.
By the 90s, I was paying $35 an hour. And then there was a period of time, like the last recording I did was in 98, right after the Misfits stint. And it was about the same amount of money. And what I'm getting at is right after then is when the computer recording became what it is today for the most part. And an entire generation of musicians and bands went from going into the studio, mostly, not all, but mostly, from recording in a studio to recording in their bedrooms.
Hmm.
You know, it changed music and bands forever. You know,
It's funny. We've lived through in our lifetimes, just between you're a little bit older than me. We've gone through a lot of change.
without a doubt.
I mean, very quickly.
Yeah.
We've seen, things. I mean, like you said, the music industry is completely different than what it was 20 years ago. It's completely
Yeah,
different.
it's like practically dead, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, yeah,
Because bands don't give a crap anymore about record labels. Why? Because record labels would basically screw you.
yeah,
Now, I don't know if you heard what Bobby was saying, but back in the day, you get like 0.003 cents
yeah.
for every CD you sold, or what did he say?
No,
CD
it was
or
that was for on Spotify. So every time your song gets played, you get that.
right.
He
Okay.
was saying like if you played on the radio, you get like $3, and he says it actually works out to be about the same. So
Yeah.
but
Well, but the only difference is, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that punk rock bands and independent bands themselves, they didn't, very few of them got lucky and made it to the top. Started out as a garage band, punk rock garage band, and then made it to the high level of touring and being paid as a professional entertainer.
yeah,
Very few stories like that. And that's why the punk rock scene went the way that it did. They wanted independence. They didn't want to be part of the Led Zeppelin crowd, the Grateful Dead crowd. Because let's cat with every single time. Look at that. It's right in my face.
meow.
There you go. Get the hell out of here. How was I saying? Oh yeah. Yeah, band because like back in the 70s, the most popular stuff on the radio was Genesis, Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead, Bruce Springsteen,
The Eagles.
the Eagles,
Blah.
Boston, Steve Miller. And not for nothing, these musicians and entertainers were awesome at what they did, but the younger bands were tired of that pot smoking, alcoholic drinking bands, rock and roll bands. They wanted to start something that was different. And that's where bands like
It
Bobby,
wasn't corporate and
exactly.
all business like. Yeah, yuck, man. Yeah,
It's true.
that's what's appealing about punk rock, man. It's rebellious. you know.
Yeah, that in a nutshell,
Yeah.
in one word, the definition,
Mm.
rebellion. Excuse me, rebellion. I gotta stop drinking before I go on the show. That was a joke, but anyway,
Hey, dude,
um,
you know, really, you need to quit drinking before you get on the show, bro.
I gotta stop drinking whiskey.
Is it whiskey?
No, I'm kidding.
Just messing with you.
But yeah, that is really what it came down to for a lot of punk rock bands. They just didn't want to be part of that mainstream radio played rock and roll anymore.
Yeah.
They wanted something different. And Bobby Steele was part of that scene. He came out of the 70s punk rock scene.
Yeah.
And again, it's an honor to have been able to talk
Hell
to
yeah.
Bobby, um, being the guitar player for the Misfits back in the day. If I remember correctly, I think he was on Horror Business, Three Hits from Hell, and Hollywood Babylon. No, wait, Hollywood Babylon? No, oh shit, I can't remember that record. Anyway, he was on a number of records, and then one day they booted him so that they could put Doyle in the band.
Yeah.
And like nobody even told Bobby. Nobody told him
I didn't want to
until
go in there and ask him.
yeah, I didn't want to do it either.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah. I thought about it a couple times, but so they just like what they just went on without him and just said didn't even say anything to him.
All right. So when he was talking about Frank Zappa,
Uh-huh.
if I remember correctly, he had just met Frank Zappa recently or at someplace. And he went into this story about how I might be telling it a little bit different than he does, but if I remember correctly, him and Frank Zappa had started talking, and he was going to invite Frank Zappa to a gig that they were playing. And if I remember correctly, the gig was at the Ritz in New York City. So Frank Zappa shows up to see Bobby Steele and apparently goes into the dressing room. Bobby's not there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So and then again, I'm trying to remember how Bobby told me, but Bobby goes to the dressing room because he doesn't even know yet. And goes to the dressing room to go in, and they basically come out, and it was Jerry's brother Kenny, who used to be the manager for the new Misfits. Kenny comes out and tells him, he's like, "Yeah, man, I got bad news. You're not in the band anymore." Like they didn't even tell him. They didn't even tell him. Like, how disrespectful is that?
Well, they pretty much did the same thing to you.
Yeah, kind of like I had a call up one day and Jerry's like, "Oh, don't bother, we're getting Michael back." I'm like, "Oh, thanks a lot." Quit
Yeah.
my job, moved out of my apartment, my house that I was living in with the band.
Yeah.
I mean, I did all these things so that I could be a steady part of that band. And then after the two tours, they just boot me out. Like, and again, as I just said, didn't even have the courtesy to tell me. Like I had to call up to find out. I was so angry
Yeah.
after knowing those guys for 11 years prior. And then, I helped them out by saving two continent tours, one in Europe, one in South America. I helped save them from canceling the tours because their lead singer didn't want to go on tour to South America. So I come in, I save the tours, and they kick me out.
Yeah.
Anywho, enough about them. Yeah, Bobby got shafted, but he went on to form the Undead.
It's
And
a great freaking band, man. I mean,
yeah, and
I like them a
he's
lot.
been talking about them for years. Like I said that wrong. What I meant to say, he's been talking about how once he formed the Undead, it kept him for lack of a better term, kept him in the limelight so that people knew who he was.
Yeah.
Because once he was out of the Misfits, he had to basically start all over again. And that's when he formed the Undead. And to this day, as I told the story in the beginning, having met him the day I was buying the album by the Misfits called Beware, which is the album. He actually, if when we were interviewing him, if you looked behind him, directly behind him on his left side was the album cover of Beware. That was the album I was buying. And I walk into that club, which was closed at the time, but I went there just to buy the album. And there he was. And I was like, holy crap, it's you. So that was a really big deal for me. And then, as I said, from that point on, him and I remained in contact, for lack of a better term. And he helped me get my first record pressed,
Wow.
gave me the information that I needed.
Yeah. Seems like a heck of a nice guy, man.
Yeah,
You know,
he's a good guy.
you know, I hope his tour goes good. And I'll go see him. I'll go see him when he comes out here. So
Yeah,
cool.
definitely send him an email. I'm sure he'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, we're gonna wrap up tonight's show. Anything else you wanted to bring up?
Not at all, buddy.
All right. All right, guys. Well, we're keeping it short tonight.
Hey, we're keeping it short because, well, for one thing, Bobby, you know, could only do it for as long as he did. And the other reason is it's my wife's birthday. And so I begged Mike, let's keep this one short so I can spend it with her. So that's the truth. We're honest on this podcast. So there you go. I said it.
There you go, folks. So you are listening to what the hell are we on? Episode 19?
This is episode 19, the big 2-0 on the next
Holy
one.
crap, we're coming up on 20 episodes. We're cooking.
We did two recordings this week too. Actually 2 in 3 days. So that's
By the way,
yeah.
I was looking at our list of shows on YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not do an episode 8?
So episode 8 got blocked. There were some copyright content that they were not happy about. So I said,
was that the music? Was that the music one?
Yeah. I think it was the David Bowie. They didn't like that. And which is crazy because we do all live performances. We never, I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't, you know, just like Bobby said, maybe we need to understand the copyright laws a little bit better. But we're kind of punk rock and how we do this, and I enjoy it. So, you know, the way I look at it is I stopped doing Spotify because they kicked off like half of our episodes and I got mad at them. YouTube's only kicked one episode off. So we've done, and we shared a lot of stuff. So, you know.
And that was the episode we did of what, our 5 favorite punk rock bands or bands in general, I believe, right?
Well, yeah, no, it was, I think it was bands in general. Here, I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, I've got it too. Let me see, episode 8.
Of course, I'm on the Paramigo page.
Episode 8, on the record episode, our first on the record episode. David Bowie, Fields of the Nephilim, Alien Sex Fiend, The Cult, Sisters of Mercy, The Cure.
They had a problem with the David Bowie one.
Are you kidding?
They sent me an email weird. And I was like, well, there ain't nothing I can do about it, buddy.
You know, it's weird because that clip that we played of him singing Ashes to Ashes was done in like Japan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it was a live show. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, all the video clips that we played for that episode were live versions of the songs that we were talking about, with the exception of Sisters of Mercy.
Well, the beauty is, you know, maybe one day I'll go back through. I don't want to cut anything out, you know,
right?
And make it palatable to them. So I just say, hey, if you're going to be that way, we're just screw it. You don't get the episode.
You know what I think it might be? I think it might be if we play the whole video or in this case, a music video of a song, that might be the problem. If we played a portion of it, we might be able to get away with it.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
You live and you learn, dude.
Exactly. It's so weird that you brought this whole thing up because as I said, I'm looking through, I'm like, where's episode 8? Episode 7,
Yeah,
episode 9.
it's on my view. I can see it, but it says blocked.
Oh, I
So,
see. All right.
and like some of them are partially blocked because in some countries they don't have the license rights and stuff like that. I'm like, whatever. If you can see it in the United States, I'm happy. Okay, so
Is that so?
Yeah.
So only in a
the
only
episode that we just released where it wasn't even music, we just did videos. It's partially blocked in some countries.
what the
One of the
The
videos that
movies?
we shared, yeah,
You
one
mean
of the
the
videos, yeah, it's
hang
probably
on.
hacks and
No
yeah,
shit.
yeah. I bet you it is because I'm sure some countries don't want you watching that.
No
So,
shit.
yeah, that's my best guess.
But is it still playing in America?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you can still see it in America.
Yep.
Well, that's good. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Wow, son of a bitch, man. All right, we're gonna have to be a little bit more selective in the future on how we do that.
Well, it is what it is, man. I mean, how are you? What are you going to do? Contact a lawyer and say, "Hey, man, I need to."
No.
You
What
know?
I'm saying is, I think if we use less footage, you should, based on YouTube copyright law, I think you have to just use a certain amount of time, like a certain amount of seconds. It might be 10, 20, 30 seconds. I don't know.
Mhm.
And then once it goes past that, then it becomes copyright infringement, I think. But I don't understand if you're giving the credit where credit is due, why
Yeah.
it would be such a big
And
deal.
if it's a freaking trailer,
Exactly.
it's not like
Exactly.
we're showing the movie. I don't know, man. So
All right. Well, now I know. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
In any event, all right, folks. You have been listening to a hideous what's it called? A Hideous Diversion podcast. I am Mike Hideous, my host, Mr. B.
hello, Mr. B. Goodbye, Mr.
We
B.
yeah, you have been listening to episode 19 with our guest Bobby Steele from the Undead, who I want to thank very much. And we're going to finish it off by letting a video play of the Undead so we can get copyright law infringement. No, I'm kidding. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe we can play it. Maybe we can. Maybe we'll find some live footage that we can put on or something like that. But in the meantime, no, there will be no video footage unless we know we can play it.
I'll find something, and yeah, I have a few ideas of what I'm going to add
right.
to it. So yeah.
All right. Now on that note, I want to say thank you everyone for listening and or watching. We will catch you on the next episode, which I don't know what the topic is off the top of my head, but we have more interviews coming up for the month of July. And
August
yeah,
too, man. We're booked.
Yep, we're booked
For
up
at least
right
2
through
months. So
to the end of August. Yep. So we got some interesting shows coming up. All right, Mr. B, you want to say goodbye?
yeah, hey, if you're interested in the paranormal, please check out my YouTube page, the Paramigos. That's with 2 G's. And I got videos on there. I'm going to be doing a lot of ghost hunting at the end of this month and next month. I'll be talking about that on the show. Have some Paracons coming up and some exciting stuff that I'll get into later.
Any new footage going up on the site?
Huh?
Any new footage that you got on the site?
No, I've got to. No, I'm all caught up, to believe it or not. So like I said, at the end of the month, I have a ghost hunt I'm doing, so there'll be some for that. There's actually about 2 or 3 abandoned houses that I've stumbled upon that I may go do some ghost hunting in and see what I can find.
Okay.
So,
well, good luck.
The time to do it. So
don't forget, bring like a cross and a stake.
Oh yeah, holy water and
holy water.
Yes.
All right, folks. Thank you very much for listening to a Hideous Diversion podcast. I'm Mike Hideous. Good night, everyone.